Welcome. I see we're having a good start. So maybe we give it a minute, not more than 2 minutes before we start. So you're welcome to this learning event on the digital community entrepreneur experience, a journey that UNCDF and private sector partners have been undertaking for a while. And so already I see we've had a question coming around the recording. So yes, the recording is, the webinar will be recorded and the recording will be shared. So thank you for joining in time. So as we get started to the webinar, I think it would be good to know the team that's with us today. And so I would like to begin the session by introducing our colleagues on the panel and our key speakers for the day. And so maybe to begin with the private sector partners, we are joined by Gerard Otim. Gerard is the chief executive at Ensibuuko and founder as well. Hi, Gerard.
Hi, Ronald. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Gerard. We are also joined so we're also joined by a member of the consortium that's implementing also a digital community entrepreneur model, and Jasper Okite from Cordaid, recently merging Cordaid with ICO. And Jasper in the consortium, you have Cordaid, you have Nilecom, and you also have Mezzanine. How are you, Jasper?
Thank you, Ronald. I am okay. Thank you.
Great, thanks, thanks, Jasper. And so I turn to we have we're also joined by Joyce from MobiPay. And Joyce will be representing the experience that a private sector partner, MobiPay, has. Hello, Joyce. If you're on the call, or you could be joining. Yes, Joyce. Hello, Joyce. How are you today?
Good morning, Ronald. I was having difficulties joining. I'm okay.
Great, thank you. So I guess now I would like to introduce the UNCDF team and our colleague Mike McCaffrey, who leads the East and Southern Africa programming for UNCDF. Is on the call. Hello, Mike. How are you this rainy morning? It's settled now, I guess.
Good morning. Yeah, still waiting for electricity, but settled. Good morning.
Great. Good morning. Yeah, the clouds were dark earlier in the morning, so I'm really happy it's now calm. And also joined by Stephen Weiss, who is our digital agriculture lead. Good morning, Stephen.
Yes, morning, Ronald. Happy to be on the call. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. So we get to start us off. It's really important to underscore the importance of the interface that communities have with digital, and essentially the role of a human interface has been well documented. And I think we are looking forward to learning how, the digital community entrepreneur model reinforces and adds value to that human interface, whether making it more sustainable or improving the experience that the customers, the clients have. And to get us started, I would really like us to step back, Mike, and see kind of this journey that from your experience, Mike, in this space, how you've seen this interface moving, for example, from a booster team approach or even earlier to now the digital community entrepreneur. So what's kind of the big picture, Mike, that you see out there? Thanks. Over to you, Mike.
Thanks, Ronald. Yeah, so I'm based in Kampala, and as Ronald said, I manage the East and Southern Africa region for the Inclusive Digital Economies program. We have programs running in 6 countries here, and our mission is to leave no one behind in the digital era. I've been working in mobile money and agent banking for the past decade, and really what I wanted to do is help people understand the origins of the Digital Community Entrepreneurs program, because it really started with UNCDF work that began in 2016, 2017, with what Ronald mentioned, a program called the Booster Teams. Now, at that time, the sector was really focused on figuring out how we could take mobile money systems into rural areas. And there was a lot of research that was coming out at the time that was showing in the leading region in the world, East Africa, while we have 60 to 80% of the population living in rural areas, depending on the country, we only had kind of 20 to 30% of the agent networks for mobile money in those areas. And we need to understand the concept of rural, or how it was defined then, and largely how it's still defined now. A common definition that's used is over 5 kilometers from an urban center. So I think as we all know, that leaves a lot of peri-urban areas, it leaves a lot of fair-sized kind of towns defined as rural. And in those types of scenarios, we know well how to build mobile money agent networks along highways and where there's infrastructure. But the real frontier, whole rest of the population that lives outside of those areas. And Uganda, 75% of the population lives in rural areas. So it's quite a lot of people. And really the issues with reaching them are much more accentuated than is commonly understood. People will say, oh yeah, we're doing rural operations, but really what they mean is kind of peri-urban or mid-sized towns. The reason why this is so difficult is because mobile money, it's a complicated service, right? It certainly has digital elements, but fundamentally it was cleverly designed to work in the cash economies of East Africa. It's a cash-based service where for the majority of shillings that we send digitally between mobile phones on the front end, a team of people have to move physical shillings on the back end to an agent point where we can withdraw them. And that requires, roads that don't go out during the rainy season. It requires a financial infrastructure, usually banks, or minimally rebalance points to move that cash around securely and cost effectively. And these are things that we generally don't have in rural areas and rural areas. And that digital component is important too. We need electricity to charge phones. We need people to have mobile phones. And we need those people to have a level of digital and financial skills to, 1, operate the system, and 2, understand kind of what that system can unlock for them in terms of an improved quality of life. And those things are difficult to do, especially in a business model that's based on volumes and needs to have kind of a low cost infrastructure. UNCDF was really kind of, I would say, audacious and said, let us see how far we can push this rural frontier. us not look at 6 kilometers outside of a urban center. Let us look at 20, 50, 100 kilometers in some cases. And, I think the initial understanding was raised that far, but we're still going to need a significant amount of economic activity. A payment systems utility is based on economic activity that necessitates it, right? With 75% of Ugandans earning their livelihood from agriculture. That was an easy starting point. And UNCDF evaluated a handful of value chains, including the coffee value chain, the dairy value chain, the seed oil value chain, and set out to solve the array of challenges I mentioned, dictated by kind of the digital and physical nature of the systems. In some cases, it was much harder than anyone had feared. For example, with the coffee value chain, fundamental connectivity was not there. And so the first stage was UNCDF working with providers to provide a guarantee for them to put a base station out in the area where the coffee value chain was working, because the providers weren't convinced there was a business model to do so. There ended up being a business model, but and then after that, research showed that under 50% of people in most of the value chains had a mobile handset. So stage 2 was really kind of providing some of this fundamental infrastructure that isn't in rural areas to make these systems work. The research also incorporates really having a deep understanding of how these value chains work, how they're organized, and what are their pain points. So for the dairy value chain, which is organized in a series of co-ops, some of these co-ops were moving upwards of 100 million Ugandan shillings every month along dirt roads, 50, 100 kilometers into the bush. Besides the obvious security concerns with that, it's just an operational nightmare, right? An efficiency nightmare. And so UNCDF engaged technology service providers to help build dashboards for these systems, and also integrate them with the different providers. So regardless of which operator a farmer wanted to use, they could make and receive payments with their co-op. Agriculture, depending on the product we're talking about, is sometimes seasonal, right? Coffee is harvested once a year. Dairy, is much more kind of monthly, year round. But we also can't have a system that is sustainable once a year or even once a month, right? Agents need to eat every day. Providers need to see growing levels of profitability and sustained usage. And so that really led to the understanding that while the economic anchor was the value chain, really what needed to happen from a business perspective and from an impact perspective was the greater onboarding of the community that was living in these areas where the farmers were making their livelihoods. And so that's everything, again, from helping distribute low-cost, affordable handsets to taking an average of 20 minutes with everyone onboarded to explain how the system works and how it can help them, to really create the amount of volumes the system needs to sustain itself over time, and to really increase the impact a system can have in an area like that with a broader kind of segment of the population. So, I think by most metrics, not all work with all the value chains worked, but over the period of the project, over kind of 70,000 people were onboarded into mobile money systems, and particularly in the coffee and the dairy value chains, those systems are still working today. However, the approach was not complete, in that UNCDF used public money to really show that using a booster team approach could catalyze sustainable systems over time, but the booster teams themselves were expensive to run, the technological integrations, these types of things. And in many cases, the way they were designed was not sustainable without UNCDF support. And further, from an impact perspective, we know that kind of mobile money by itself is useful for some people sometimes. But generally we expect a few transactions per month per active user and nothing. And what we know is that it has to be bundled with an array of other digital services that really an impact for these communities. And so UNCDF realized that, not only kind of digitalizing the payment system was required, some of the other systems around it, the energy was needed in a second phase. That second phase is the digital community entrepreneurs, and I'll hand it back over to the team to take us through how those work. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Really nice to learn about this background and how the booster teams worked and the challenges they faced. And it's really interesting to look at how there were other needs the community had even beyond the human interface, the network coverage and all that. And I think that kind of takes us nicely into the next section, whereby, as you touched on, Mike, towards the end, being that they had needs beyond, say, mobile money services, and it was important both for the providers and the community to bundle in other services. So I would like to pose this question to Stephen Weiss around how does the digital community entrepreneur model kind of contribute to these two facets, aspects that especially Mike led on towards the end, bundling and also the sustainability piece, because as Mike said, a lot of it was being sustained with UNCDF and donor funding. So how does it scale and how does it become profitable for the parties involved? Let me I have a couple of slides of that Stephen, you had prepared. So let me just share my screen now. Okay. Over to you, Stephen.
Yeah, so you're most welcome, everyone. And thanks, Ronald, for giving me the opportunity to share my learnings and the rest of the anchor partners and stakeholders that we shall also be hearing from. So maybe just speaking from what Mike said, yeah, so really, I would just want to set the stage and try to give you some of the objectives for today's learning event, really hinged around sharing key insights and challenges and some of the actions that we deployed in rolling out the digital community entrepreneur model in West Nile and in Northern Uganda. So this digital community entrepreneur model is now being scaled in 2 regions. And we think by the end of this learning event, we'll be able to see and crowd in other actors or stakeholders that can actually take it to other regions as well. And the other objective that we really set when designing the digital community entrepreneur as a result of the booster team was really having a shared path forward in line of the opportunity and appetite to scale this model across different parts of Uganda, but also other countries where we operate and other countries as well. Yeah, so we expect some of the key takeaways from everyone that is attending here, that you will have a clear understanding of the keys to success. What does it take for you to deploy a DC model successfully, and how do you kind of bridge the gap that exists in last mile distribution of digital inclusion related services and products? Then lastly, I think the most important bit of it is, like Mike said, is that we realized that the booster teams were creating the desired impact within the rural communities, but because we're funding them, they were not really sustainable. So what does sustainability of rolling out a digital community entrepreneur network of lead farmers, change agents, call it village agents, how does sustainability look like? So those are the key takeaways from this session, definitely. Next slide. So I'll straight away, Ronald, next slide. Yeah, so like just given the objectives, when we're designing the digital community entrepreneur model, which really hangs around having a set of young, dynamic community members, mostly who are lead farmers, who are normally change agents within the community. They kind of have some relationships and have built rapport with farmer groups, village saving and loan associations. So we went into the rural communities, and because we found out that these set of personalities existed and were already giving some bit of services to farmer groups and VSLs. So our vision here was to really kind of ensure that we increase financial services for the poor and low-income households in a sustainable manner, in that beyond project funding, we anticipate that those digital community entrepreneurs who are living within proximity within the rural areas will continue providing these financial services even beyond the project funding. Our mission was really to set out to provide selected digital inclusion related services really that help us to create a formidable foundation of what we call the digital rails. So when we talk about digital rails, these are some of the prerequisites that are needed for you to create a strong entry point or springboard that allows digitization get closer to the last mile. So some of these digital inclusion related services range between mobile phones, solar connectivity, financial literacy, and digital literacy is key because it helps you to kind of help create a top of mind awareness that definitely the end consumers and the beneficiaries get to know why they're actually getting into the digitization journey. Yep. Ronald, next slide. Sorry. Yeah, so the DCE design was really hinged around creating and addressing last mile distribution, just like we mentioned. But most importantly, when you look at the DCE model, the digital community entrepreneur model, this is a person that lives within the community, and what we are trying to do is this person has close to 5 activities that they provide within the community. They provide financial literacy, and within that context, we ensure that at least the basic content that a farmer or last mile smallholder farmer needs is actually provided through this digital community entrepreneur. They also go ahead and help on creating the basics of how to use a mobile phone, but also not only how to use a mobile phone, but how do they access the mobile phone. So we link them to device suppliers that actually help them to get the devices closer to the farmers. And what we saw that as you get the phones closer to the farmers, the next question that comes in line is that they don't have where to charge. So how do you come up with alternative electricity that kind of helps them to get where to charge? So we introduced solar, and solar as an alternative that they can use to charge their mobile phones. So with all these introduction of different services and products that we give through the digital community entrepreneur model, we saw in the design that there is a revenue sharing model whereby this particular agent earns commission from the sale of these services to the last mile. And with that, we'll be hearing from the partners, MobiPay, Ensibuuko, and some of the anchor partners on how these digital agents are really making commissions, and that comes into their pockets, and thus their profitability story to actually live within the communities. Yeah, so this is just the design and what we anticipated in rolling out this model. We'll go to the next slide, really, that talks about what we've so far achieved with the digital community entrepreneur model that we've been rolling out for now close to 2 years in West Nile and Northern Uganda. Like I said, we target majorly VSLs, those are village saving and loan associations, and farmer groups. So those become our entry point. And because they are our entry point, one of the things that we have actually done is that using the digital community entrepreneurs, we actually help to educate the farmers on how to use different digital use cases like the digital Vsla ledger system, which helps them to record their farming activity and saving behaviors at the end of the day. So we also use the digital community entrepreneurs to educate these farmers that belong to these farmer groups about the benefits of financial literacy, the benefits of digitization. They also go ahead and sell the mobile phones and solar units, and also other revenue buckets that will be discussed by the anchor partners that we'll be presenting today. So in terms of numbers, we've rolled out close to 4 projects that really promote last mile distribution. And so far, we've been able to profile 800,000 farmers. So these are farmers that have been profiled. We have a database of these farmers. We know where they belong, which farmer group, which Vsla they belong to. And we also capture different sets of biodata for these farmers. 51% of those are female, which is for us one of our focus segments as UNCDF in our new strategy of leaving no one behind in the digital era. We have a strong focus of trying to see how we empower the women, most especially those that are living in the rural areas. That's one of our mandates. So far as we speak, we have over 1,200 digital community entrepreneurs. This is a network of digital agents that are on ground. And like we said, we anticipate by the end of this call, anyone out there within the Ugandan space can try to see how they can leverage and use this network to promote their services and products. And that is the reason why we started and went in for this specific program. 55,000 of these 800,000 farmers profiled are now using the farmer call center that we set up as one of the digital use cases. And maybe just to mention is that we went into kind of address specific market constraints within the agriculture space, and we found extension as one of the constraints. So how do you use the digital community entrepreneur as an escalation point to kind of, one, disseminate different digital extension and agro-advisory services that are being driven through the call center? Because we believe that there's a strong need for a human touch to kind of translate the extension messages and services in the local context. So we are using them to promote such digital solutions. And we've also seen over 6,000 VSLs that have been digitized in this specific timeframe, and over 300 cooperatives. And like I said, cooperatives are very key because they actually help you to kind of aggregate the different farmer groups and VSLs within a specific district. So how do you help to digitize their different processes so that you kind of show them the need and the benefits of digitization? As you do that, they kind of help you to introduce you to different farmer groups that eventually help you in rolling out the model. Most importantly, you don't have to leave out the telecos, that is the mobile network operators. Reason being that the mobile network operators actually help us in kind of providing the value added services that are needed to elevate and graduate the farmers into owning a mobile wallet. A mobile wallet in rural areas for us is taken as the first step of having a DFS, digital financial services account, which actually helps the farmers get included eventually. So working with the telecos helps you, one, to get access to SIM cards. Two, it also helps you to get access to different services they need to start transacting, like mobile money. So we need to get them SIM cards that are activated through the telecom regional teams. We need to get them data and stuff like that. So we use, and there's a handshake between the digital community entrepreneurs working with the teams that are coming from the telecoms, and they jointly attack the farmer community with a goal of making sure that they are included financially. Basically, that tells you what we've been able to achieve in these 2 years. I know it is quite very early to say that maybe what does the picture look like if we roll out this model countrywide, but we're very sure that with the 1,300 plus digital community entrepreneurs being rolled out, we can replicate the model and we can come up and work with the different stakeholders in the market to see how we deepen and strengthen the network across the region. So that is one of the ultimate goals that we want to achieve in building an inclusive digital economy in Uganda. What are some of the signs of change, systematic change? What do we see changing within the market? So we do deploy a market system development approach in our programming. And it is very important to see how our programming actually helps to change and create impact within the markets that we operate. And from research and inception study that we did, we found out that some of the prerequisites or digital rails that really help digitization to have a smooth landing were kind of missing and were not strongly worked on. So issues around connectivity, talking about access to mobile phones, talking about access to alternative energy, that is solar, for charging purposes, reading purposes, talking about the agent network. So when we look at the agent network, there's commendable work that has been done by the telcos, there's no doubt. But when it comes to deep rural, some of the agents that exist there have liquidity challenges. So how do you work on some of those liquidity challenges in partnership with the telcos and the digital community entrepreneurs to kind of improve and bridge the gap of liquidity management in the rural areas? Then we come to issues around financial literacy. So financial literacy, digital literacy, you will all agree with me that majority of the last mile, mostly the smallholder farmers, are illiterate. But how do you use their own community opinion leaders as knowledge champions to kind of increase their top of mind awareness about the benefits of digitization? How can they save? What are some of the alternatives, and how can they be linked to banking and stuff like that? So some of the changes that we see in there is that we have, in the early stages, we're now beginning to change the way farmers get connected to financial services. In the past, ideally, you would have a commercial bank have an activation whereby they have a mobile van that comes to a specific village, and that day, that mobile van has a team that actually sensitizes the farmers about financial literacy, the needs to get banked and stuff like that. We've changed that system whereby we have a local person within the community who is a digital community entrepreneur. And one of his responsibilities on a day-to-day is to kind of change the way people perceive financial literacy, continue babysitting the farmers on financial literacy, but also as they do that, they need to have a living and an income. So as they do provide financial literacy and digital literacy to the farmers, they continue linking those specific farmers to different services and products that are provided by different suppliers within the market. So in a nutshell, those are some of the examples of systems that we are aiming to change within the market. But I'll allow the other panelists that we have today to share more insights on how we're beginning to change the market. And it will be very good to hear from the different partners and stakeholders we have today. Thank you very much, Ronald.
Thank you, Stephen. Before you leave, Steve, I wanted to ask about the sustainability component. You didn't touch about on the issue of revenue and how, you know, how that could be disrupted as well in the market system you mentioned. So the agents are more self-sustaining. in case you have a few ideas in a couple minutes.
Yeah, so we designed this, and we'll be hearing a lot from the partners themselves, but the way we anticipated is that when we look at the revenue sharing model between the service providers, the anchor partner, who is the agrotech, that is the implementing partner, receives a certain percentage of commission and on the sale of a device, that is a mobile phone, be it on the sale of solar, be it on the sale of inputs that are going to the farmers. And we've actually even evolved, and we are seeing this going to other stakeholders like the commercial banks getting interested in using this network of digital community entrepreneurs. So because the digital community entrepreneur is earning, the anchor partner is also earning a commission. So there is a revenue share between the anchor partner, who is the agrotech, and the digital community entrepreneur. We'll be hearing much more of these from the actual users of the model, and that's why I spared it for this. Yeah, thank you, Ronald.
Okay.
Rachel, you can take over. I think there's something wrong with Ronald.
Okay, as Ronald comes on, I would like to invite Joyce from MobiPay. I'm going to try and share my screen to go on with you with the presentation. Sorry. Sorry, Joyce, my presentation is a bit hanging. Sorry about that. Okay, Joyce, you're welcome.
Thank you, Rachel. I've failed to get my video on, but I'll use the voice. Thank you so much, everyone who is on for this webinar. Rachel, I would want you to go to the first slide. Yes, thank you. MobiPay, we've been in the market basically for 5 years. We started operation in 2016. And currently our workforce stands at 13 permanent workers, 580 digital community entrepreneurs that are spread across the country. Now we have a liaison office at Kampala, and then 3 branch offices managing the regions. We have one office in Iganga, which manages all the eastern region. And then we have one in Lira, which manages Karamoja and the northern region. Then we have one in Kamwenge that manages the western region. Rachel, you're not moving. We go to the next slide. Yeah, in the 2-year, okay. In the 2-year project with the UNCDF, we are meant to, the project is to scale up the digital community entrepreneur model to increase usage and adoption of a digital service within the rural areas. The geographical area that we were supposed to cover was Albertine region and northern that includes the whole of Lango and the Acholi region. We are meant to work with 400 digital community entrepreneurs, sell 12,000 phones, 12,000 solars. And with the 400 digital community entrepreneurs, we are supposed to recruit 250,000 farmers and educate them also on the financial literacy. Next slide, please. The DC model, we started the DC model as it was a lead farmer model that we were working with. We later look at this and it was not sustainable. First, these are people that were picked within the community. Most of them were aged people that have been there for years, and they were not willing to do most times work on commission. So we decided to move it from the lead farmer module and bring it to the digital community entrepreneur, where we recruit youth that are flexible, that are able to move. And the DC model for us, it hangs around 3 major areas. One, when we recruit the DCE, we train them, we equip them with the marketing skills and then entrepreneurship skills. After that, we look at the services that they are supposed to provide to the farmers or the community around them. They do farmer registration, and then they also provide the financial literacy training to the farmers or the community around them. Then they sell phones and solars. They also open the bank account. Each of the products that they do, there's a commission on it. Even the inputs that they sell, everything that the services that a DC offers to a farmer or to any community around them, there is a commission on it. Now, after looking at the services they're offering and the products, then now we come to the commission. What are the commission that they earn on each of these? Now, after the commission, now we go to the farmers. What are the services that the DCs, the farmers actually get from them, whether it is a phone, it is an input or the solar. Now, we using our Duba sales platform, we are able to track the activities that the DCs are doing. Are they really making money when they do all these services? So we use the Duba. This on the screen, it is just one example of profiling, farmer profiling, what they were able to earn. Those are just a few. But we have this for all the products and services that they offer. We have for inputs, we do for the solar cells, we do for the farmer registration. So when you look at a DCE in a month, if this is a very active DCE, it can go home with about 2 million, depending on the products and services that this DCE is able to offer. So using our Duba sales platform, we are able to know that this DC is performing. If it's not performing, what can we do as MobiPay? How do we motivate them? Do they need more training? Do we need to visit them? Do we need to go with them to the field and actually show them how it works? Because we have field officers that attached to the DCs. Each field officer supervises about 40 to 50 DCs. Now, this field officer, their work is to make sure that they look at the performance of the DC using the Duba sales platform and then see how they can help them, where the gaps are. So that is how we work with the DCs. Next slide, please. We have organizations and some partners that are leveraging on our DCE model. We have Goal Uganda. We are running a project with Goal Uganda, and under this we have 5 PSS. In this program, we are expected to skill 43,500 youth across Lango, Acholi, and Karamoja. This is within the northern region and the Karamoja region. And then we're expected to work with 280 youth. Out of the 280 youth, we managed to equip 120 of them with the tablets so that they are able to move with this tablet and do digital sales using the tablets, and also skill the youth, provide the training syllabus using the tablets, because most of the rural areas, we have issues with the network. So they use the app, they download the training materials, and then they go out and train the youth using the materials they have trained. We're also expected to sell 17,000 phones within the region. Then we have Young African Works, still also under goal, which is coming up. We expect to work with 111,000 youth. This will also anchor around the DCE, and we are going to work with all our DCEs, that is the 580 youth within the area. We've also worked with the AFSI still using the digital community entrepreneur module to provide market information systems to 6,600 host and refugee community in Kamwenge. We have a new partner also, Sprout of Waters. Sprout of Waters, they provide water purifier, and then they provide a water purifier. Then they have also introduced something that has become, actually it has become the best for the youth at the moment, where you go to a farmer or to a home and you make them a cooking stove that saves firewood. You can use just one firewood and then your food is ready. Now, this one is also using the DCEs. And then we have Azuri. Azuri is also one of our partners. For them, they're selling solar water pump. This has also picked up very well, and the DCEs are very happy with it because the commission is good. And then now we have Equity Bank. That is also using the Equity DCE model to help them open accounts, to help the youth pick loans also through the DCEs. Next slide, please. In the last one year, MobiPay realized a very good revenue. It was really substantial due to the DCE module. We sold 15,383 sets of solars, and this also includes 100 sets of water pumps across the northern region. And the DCEs were able to get 30,766,000. This is just in commission. This is only one product that they were able to get, and in 1 year. And then for the phones, they were able to get 28,050,000, also in commission. Now, they were also able to sell seeds. Seeds, the revenue is not, because it is doing the seed aggregation is something which we've just introduced. It has not been there for long, but it is beginning to pick up, especially this season. It is really picking up. So we believe that is something that is going to give them mileage. But for the farmer registration, they were able to get 75 million. Now, these are commissions that are going to the DCEs. These are something that they were not able to get it. So to us, we look at the DC model as something which is sustainable, both to the MobiPay, because we are also earning revenue, and at the same time also to the DCEs. The lessons that we've picked. In the time that we've been with the DCs, we've actually learned that female DCs are better. In terms that when they do sales, they know that the money that we've earned as commission, we keep it and move it into doing other things. Actually, most of them, because we go back and follow them up, like you've gotten 500,000 Uganda shillings this month. What have you done with the money? To help them also invest into something that tomorrow they will come back and say, oh, when I was working with MobiPay for the period, as I was working as DCE, I was able to build a house, I was able to marry a woman or pay my children at school. So we've learned that working with female are more effective because they keep their money. They don't intend to use the money, as opposed to the men that most times they want to take risk. If money is not supposed to be for, they first use it and then later they say, I will pay it in the next sales, which is not good, but we are trying to get them out of that. And then also we've realized working with the local government, because every place that we go to, every place where we get DCEs, we must visit the local government office, whether it is the head office, district office, then we come down to the sub-counties, then we go to the LOCs in that area. We visit them so that they are aware that when these youth move within the community, they know them. When these youth are training people within the community, they know them. So it makes it very easy for us because the structure is already there. They also help us to monitor the performance of the DCEs as well. And then we've also learned that recruiting female DCEs within the community has actually helped. The youth DCEs, it has actually helped because those days using the lead farmer module would have these old people that they are not interested in sales, even the way they talk to, when someone is old, they are not active as the young ones. But now with the youth, getting youth DCEs, most youth have actually become interested in now doing farming, in being entrepreneurs, because if they see what others are doing, they will also want to do it. So it has helped the youth, not only the DCs, but also the youth within the community to pick up and become better people, because they're also trying all other businesses. Then recruiting more women in the region. When we started, it was difficult to get female DCEs. But now, because they see their counterparts getting money, they are also beginning to move. And even their families are also saying, okay, if we can see other women also doing it and they're earning revenue for the family, why can't you also go and join? So we are beginning to see the effect. And we think if this continues, this is going to get out so many women from where they have been to becoming entrepreneurs. To sum it all, we as MobiPay, we think the DCE model is sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. It was really nice to see the 30 million and bringing us back full circle to where we started about the sustainability of the model. And indeed, I have just a 2-minute video to share about how the MobiPay approaches this model. Let me just do that now.
The agriculture sector employs over 65% of the working population in Uganda, of which 63% are youth. Many smallholder farmers are characterized with bad farm practices, low productivity agriculture, and hence low income. This has made agriculture particularly unattractive to the youth. MobiPay AgroSys model of digital community entrepreneurs supported by UNCDF shows that ICT can play a role in attracting youth into agriculture by enhancing access to production techniques, marketing information, new technologies, and financial opportunities. DCEs are identified from farmer groups by the MobiPay field officers and then profiled into DUBA, the DCE Management Information System, which tracks all activities with the farmers. They identify mainly youth and preferably female. They are then trained on how to handle farmers and refugees, basic financial literacy, phone literacy, mobile money literacy, and digital profiling. The DCE will do the following when he or she meets the farmer. Number 1, introduce himself or herself. Number 2, introduce the project goals. Number 3, he will train the farmers on importance of solar for lighting and irrigation. Number 4, the DCE will then profile the farmers using a simple USSD platform that connects to the DUBA platform. He will then sell phone and solar. The DCE will explain the extension messages to the farmers. For each of the last mile distribution services provided by DCE, they earn income in form of commission, hence making themselves sustainable. With the right market information, production techniques, and financial opportunities, farmers realize better productivity and increased incomes. This project is supported by the United Nations Capital Development Funds. The agriculture sector employs over
Yeah, sorry about that. So I'll just pause that. So as we've seen, there is one entry point, which is the farmer groups. And we know in this country, majority population over 70% is employed in agriculture. And we also know that there is a gap in terms of access to financial services, which is what brings me to the conversation with Gerard Otim from Ensibuuko. Because one other entry point is, Gerard, perhaps working with village savings and loans associations. And this is something in the DNA of Ensibuuko, right from the foundation, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, Gerard. So I'll just share a couple of slides that Gerard had. And Gerard, if you don't mind, I'll play the video, the 1 minute video at the end.
No worries, that's fine.
Cool. Great, so here we go. Over to you, Gerard, as we learn more about the Vsla. I'm really eager to learn about your entry point, and over to you, Gerard.
Thank you, Ronald. Gerard Otim, CEO and founder of Ensibuuko. We have been working with UNCDF to implement the DCE model in the context of village savings groups, with the goal of scaling digital financial services in rural Uganda. So I'll tell you a bit more about Ensibuuko. Ronald, if you could go to the next slide. So we started in 2014. We're Ugandan fintech. We enable access to affordable, relevant financial services for people in rural communities. We work directly with SACCOs and with village savings groups, providing digital platforms that automate their processes and how they manage their funds. Our proprietary banking platform, Mobis, is a microfinance platform and a set of apps for SACCOs and VSLAs. It automates everything around their processes, how they profile their members, how they manage savings accounts, how they process loans and manage financial reports. Currently, we've worked with about 120 SACCOs in Uganda and just over 1,200 village savings groups. And through them, we are reaching 200,000 individual customers across 30 districts in Uganda. In 2020, we embarked on a journey to pilot and implement a model for how to sustainably support our VSLAs. For those of you that might know, VSLAs, unlike SACCOs, are small groups of people and in rural communities. They don't have the kind of structures that SACCOs or microfinance companies have. So most of them don't have an office. They meet in a specific location regularly, mostly weekly. And they don't really have a lot of structures. And a lot of them are not tech savvy. They're experiencing technology for the first time. So it's really important that you have someone that is a digital champion for the VSLA in their journey towards digitization. So we embarked on this journey to pilot a model that would actually enable us to do that by introducing the DCE model in support with the support from UNCDF. So what we did was build a commercial model for how to do that, identifying local partners, mostly solar companies, telecos, financial institutions, and insurance firms. We worked with 2 telecom companies, 1 solar company, and we worked with a consortium of 12 insurance companies under the Agro Insurance Consortium, promoting agriculture insurance. The benefit for these entities is that we give them access to the kind of customers that they typically would not have access to. We also are able to lower the distribution costs for them by leveraging on our existing network of DCEs. And we also offer them a low risk model for how to sell and distribute their products and services to rural customers. For DCEs, digital community entrepreneurs, we identify young people in a community that are fairly tech savvy. We provide them digital skills training to make sure that, they actually understand digital financial services, and they also understand our Vsla platform. And we work through them to provide digital skills training to VSLAs and their members, and also work through them to deliver products and services to VSLAs and their members. Our DCEs earn a commission from the products and services that they deliver, but they also build meaningful relationships with the VSLAs, but also with some of our product and service partners. And also for the DCEs, most of these are young people, youth, and we have blended a combination of young women and young male adults. And for them, it's also useful that they have some work experience. And the DCE model actually allows us to provide work experience and relevant skills for the DCEs or these young people. Through the DCEs, we are able to reach VSLAs, and DCEs are able to provide other kinds of products, solar, loans, insurance, mobile payments, phones to VSLAs and their members. And the benefit for VSLAs is that they have access to these relevant products and services, but also the DCE provides relevant training to these groups. We've mostly focused on 3 sets of trainings: digital skills training, which is really training them on internet skills, on how to use a device, how to use mobile money, which is important for their transition to digital. They also provide trainings on our Vsla application, showing them how the application works, providing, reinforcing some of the skills that we have provided before to the group secretaries. And then they also provide them financial literacy training. Now, as Ensibuuko, we've automated the relationship between our service or product partners, the digital community entrepreneur, and the VSLAs on a mobile application. So what you see on the screen is 3 interfaces of our mobile application: the Vsla Digital Ledger, which is the core platform that VSLAs use to manage their members and manage their loans and savings within a group. So we've automated the entire Vsla methodology. We have built the capacity of DCEs to provide trainings to VSLAs on how the app functions and how it works. And we use this digital ledger to collect data about VSLAs so that we can link them to financial services. Then we have built a digital marketplace where we're able to showcase products and services from different partners, telecos, phone companies, companies that sell solar products and stoves, agri-input dealers, financial service providers. And through our DCE network, we are able to aggregate orders for these products, and we route the distribution of those products through our service partners and our DCE network. So our service partners deliver products to our field offices. DCEs pick the products from the field office and deliver them to the VSLAs and their members. Then we have also built an e-learning platform on the application itself, where we provide very simple and intuitive learning resources for VSLAs. We've mostly provide app tutorials, digital and internet skills training, financial literacy skills training, and we're now looking into other sets of training, including agriculture related trainings or health interventions. And we work with the DCE networks to disseminate these trainings, but also show group secretaries ways that they can actually utilize some of these resources to reinforce some of the skills and knowledge they have from previous trainings that they've been able to go through. So this is how we have been able to automate the relationship. I'll just share a few use cases of some partners that we've worked with. We've worked with MTN. And MTN is a use case for how we partner with a mobile money service provider to do mobile money merchant acquisition and support. So MTN partners with us in West Nile region to activate mobile money merchants, small business owners, allowing small business owners accept payments, mobile money payments from mobile phone owners and their customers. And we've been doing that with MTN for just over a year now, working through our DCE network. And then we also work with the Agricultural Insurance Consortium, providing index crop insurance, very affordable insurance. And we've built a USSD platform that allows farmers, to subscribe for insurance using mobile money. And we use the DCE network to generate leads and also to manage the pipeline of farmers that are interested in this service. And our DCE is uncommissioned from all these products and services. So here is just a description of how our DCEs actually earn money, the different products and services from which they earn money. They earn money from digital training and skills. We pay them about 500 shillings per individual. And then they also earn a markup on solar cells. Depending on the solar unit, it's an average of about 7,500 per unit. And then a markup on phone cells, depending on whether it's a smartphone or feature phone. It's really an average of about 5,000 shillings. And then there's commission on mobile money merchant acquisition, which is 10,000 shillings per merchant enabled. And there's also other kind of commission payments on active merchants. And then on airtime sales, about 500 shillings. And then we also pay a commission for VSLA members that are active on our platform. We share revenue from our licensing fees on that platform with the VSLA members. I mean, with the digital community entrepreneurs. Currently, we have digital community entrepreneurs and an average of about 60,000 shillings a month. But there are those that earn much higher than that, but the average is about 60,000 shillings a month. We work with about 338 DCEs. About 173 of those are currently active and involved in the sales and promotion of some of our products and services. I thought it might be useful to also walk you through what we think is an appropriate staffing structure, what has really worked what has worked for us, because when you're rolling out a DCE model, then you need to have a certain staffing structure set up in place to support the DCE model. So at the top of the structure, we have our business development manager, who works with a field supervisor. A field supervisor, we have offices in the locations where we have DCEs. So for example, we have an office in Arua. We now have an office in Soroti and setting another office in northern Uganda. The field supervisor is the person in charge of the field office. And the field supervisor recruits, trains and supports field agents, but also sometimes supports a network or a portfolio of their own DCEs. Then we have a field supervisor. Field supervisors are mostly based in districts, so they are closer to the field than the field supervisor is. Field supervisors are mostly regional, and then field officers are mostly at a district level. Field supervisors recruit, train, and support the network of our DCEs, and work with the DCEs to make sure that they meet their targets. And then we have the digital community entrepreneur, who is the person on ground, the digital companion for VSLAs. They provide training and linkages to products and services to the VSLAs. So that is the staffing structure that we have, and this is what has worked for us. Now, in terms of, I also wanted to share some key learnings and insights in terms of sustainability. From my experience, and again, it differs, from business to business and organization to organization. In our own experience, we have found that usually there are really three stages of the path to sustainability. Had three key steps. The first step is piloting. We started piloting with the support of UNCDF early 2020. And from my experience, we've learned usually in the piloting stage, you'll find that the model is heavily subsidized. And in our context, we also transfer 100% of our product markup sales. We pass that on to the DCEs because the revenue bucket at that stage is still small and you need the DCE to be fully incentivized. Then we also realized that at that stage, you still have loose relationships with the DCEs. And then the marketing budgets are usually high because this is a new service, it's a new model. So you spend quite a lot in marketing and promotion. And at that stage, most of our DCEs, usually make between 30 to 90,000 shillings a month. From my experience, it's about really 18 months before you're able to graduate from pilot to a growth stage. At a growth stage, we have seen an increased appetite for commercial partners. That is the stage where we are at now. New partnerships, new collaborations, and I'll talk a bit about them later. Then we have also now introduced revenue share between us and the DCEs because the revenue buckets have increased. We are now able to earn more revenue, and so we are able to actually share that revenue between the company and the DCE. We also realize that at that level, there's a high churn rate for DCEs and also for customers generally. And that's expected usually when you enter the growth stage of the business. Some people leave, but the benefit of that is that then the quality of the DCEs improves because now you have people that really have mastered the art of the trade and people that really appreciate the model and are more focused. So the quality of DCEs is much improved, stronger relationships between us and the DCEs, but also between the DCEs and the VSLAs. And then the revenue that the DCEs actually earn now grows. It's now between 90,000 to 150,000 shillings. And then the final stage, which is the stage that we hope to get to, is the scaling stage, where DCE localization has moved from a parish to sub-county level, where we have stronger commercial partnerships and sometimes even co-branding with some of our partners, where our relationship with the DCEs is purely commercial and there are completely no subsidies, and where 80% of our DCEs work full-time. And also where our DCEs require minimal supervision. At this stage also, DCE revenue should be more than 150,000 shillings. This is the stage that we hope to get to, and we're working towards that. So the DCE model for us has been extremely successful. And I must tell you that for us as a company, the DCE model has now become a standard for how we onboard. You might know Ensibuuko's core business is Vsla digitization. And the DCE model for us is now the standard for how we do that. Previously, we used to organize workshops for VSLAs, would invite VSLA secretaries to this training and would provide digital skills training for them. This model wasn't sustainable and wasn't scalable. So we've now shifted to that model. We now build the capacity of DCEs to actually do the onboarding work. So we work through DCEs to onboard VSLAs, to train them and to support them. And this model for us is low cost, it's scalable and it's sustainable, and it's also really efficient because there's a certain level of ownership on the ground. And we've also seen an increased uptake of this service because of the introduction of the DCE model. So far we've worked with a couple of different organizations. We've worked with AFSI to digitize 100 VSLAs. There's an error there, but it's 100 VSLAs for AFSI and about 30 DCEs recruited. We've also worked with Vision Fund to digitize 30 VSLAs, about 3 DCEs in one district. We worked with the Microfinance Support Center to digitize 300 VSLAs. Worked with Dan Church Aid, currently implementing a VSLA digitization project in northern Uganda and West Nile. 64 DCEs, 420 VSLAs. We are also implementing a VSLA digitization project in Karamoja, 30 VSLAs with 3 DCEs. And then also implementing a VSLA digitization initiative with IIRR, 100 VSLAs with 10 DCEs. And also just about to roll out a VSLA digitization initiative with Catholic Relief Services for 30 VSLAs where we will be working with 3 DCEs. Well, we also have we have another pipeline project with Feed the Future USAID, where we will be digitizing 3,000 VSLAs in northern Uganda, working with 300 DCEs in 5 districts of northern Uganda. And then we, again, through the support of UNCDF, the FAO and Uganda Development Bank, are now digitizing 2,000 VSLAs and linking them to digital loans. And working with 150 DCEs across West Nile and northern Uganda. So this really demonstrates the increased appetite for the DCE model and how the DCE model is helping us scale. As I conclude, I wanted to share what I think are our top 3 lessons or key takeaways from this model and what I think has worked for us. One is talk commercial from day one. It's really important that the modeling of your DCE operation should be commercial from the very start, from the very onset. So the relationship that you're building with the DCEs, the relationship you're building with service or product partners, all of that should be modeled from the commercial point of view. And you should start discussing commissions, sales-based commissions with the DCEs from the very onset. The other key learning for us is that it's important to build appropriate digital tools to support the DCEs. As you might know, technology is new in most of these locations, and for some of the DCEs, some of technology might also be new for some of them. So it's really important, that you keep everything in one place, and the best way to do that is to digitize and automate most of the processes and the relationships you have between the DCEs, the VSLAs, and other service providers that you might have. The final one really is that, when you're approaching the DCE model and you're considering adopting it, you have to realize that, it's not a same size fit all. So different organizations will apply the model differently, and it might work differently for different organizations. So it's not something you can copy and paste. I think it's a methodology that you can implement, but the application of it might differ from organization to organization. So you need to be willing to fail fast, learn, and iterate fast enough, and also approach it with an open mind and learning mindset. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Jared. What I'm taking away is I'm seeing how Ensibuuko converted the challenge that your products need rails, so-called digital rails, connectivity, and all that. And then you not only look at providing them, but you look at getting a commission out of them to sustain your model. So what was your challenge in rural areas is now a revenue stream for the DCEs, similar to how Joyce shared about the challenge of agriculture extension, then that again being an opportunity for so it's really nice to see this kind of conversion. I just, as I bring up your video, Jared, I just had a question around this growth, from digitizing circles, digitizing VSLAs to digital credit. So what's coming next for Ensibuuko? What's on the horizon?
Thank you. I think for us, the biggest thing is digital financial services. I think that's the direction we really are driving towards. Collaborations with financial institutions, leveraging on our DCE network to provide digital loans, digital savings, digital insurance for VSLAs. I think that for us is the biggest focus for the next couple of months.
Great, thanks, Jared. So just sharing a 2-minute video also from Ensibuuko to sum up the...
Over 34 million people in Uganda live in rural areas. 98% of these are small.
Yeah, sorry about that. Now here we go again. Sound, yes.
Over 34 million people in Uganda live in rural areas. 98% of these are smallholder farmers.
Majority of them live on less than $2 a day and continue to experience income shortfalls resulting from low productivity, especially in agriculture. The low penetration of formal banking services in rural Uganda means that smallholder farmers lack access to relevant and affordable financial services, the capital needed to help them boost their productivity. Faced by these realities, rural farmers have resorted to forming groups as a means to encourage collective savings and access to affordable loans. These savings groups have gained dominance in rural Uganda. It is estimated that at least 300,000 of such groups exist in Uganda and are composed of mainly women and youth. But savings groups have their own issues. They continue to rely on traditional and rudimentary ways of managing records and their funds, lack the knowledge of digital solutions, and are increasingly becoming known for corruption and mismanagement. Ensibuuko's MobiPay platform offers village savings and loan associations a digital alternative to managing their operations. Savings groups download the app on Google Play Store and require at least one smartphone per group. They can now maintain profiles of their members and records of their transactions digitally and may also choose to manage some of their funds using mobile money or a bank account other than a lockbox. In 2020, Ensibuuko piloted a method for increasing the adoption and utilization of its digital financial products and services for savings groups. Ensibuuko recruits tech-savvy youth who act as a companion for the savings group in their journey towards digitization, providing them follow-on training on digital skills. Through partnerships with telco companies, financial institutions, and insurance firms, Ensibuuko works with digital community entrepreneurs to promote tailored savings, loans, and microfinance products and services to savings groups in their communities. The digital community entrepreneur is an effective model for youth and women's financial inclusion as it helps to bring digital financial services closer to them. This initiative is made possible through the support of the United Nations Capital Development Fund and its partners. Over 34 million people in Uganda live in...
Great, thanks. So really excited to get into the quick Q&A and learn more from all of us on the call. I guess this discussion would be incomplete if we don't hear from, we've heard from the private sector, and it's also important to learn from the cooperatives in the rural areas what this means for them so that we don't miss any perspectives. And with me, I'm joined by Willie Okot. Willie is from Oyam district, and there is a nice cooperative called Ochwek Omiyo. I hope I've not butchered it, Willie. And I guess I just want to learn from you, Willie, that so far I know that cooperative has digitized 5,000 farmers. But I'm listening to Gerard and Joyce. I'm curious for a cooperative like yours, which is founded predominantly as a women's cooperative, what value is there in either rolling out a Vsla, a DCEs, some of your members DCEs, or what's the value for the cooperative when you digitize? What do you see as the benefit? Thanks. Over to you, Willie.
Thank you, Ronald. Let me first start by correcting. It is called Achwech Omeo.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Willie Okot. I work as manager of Achwech Omeo Cooperative Society, and we are located in Oyam. Oyam is in northern Uganda. I need first of all to thank UNCDF team, Hamwe, Stella, Ronald, Andrew, colleagues, and participants. Good morning, members. I also bring you greeting from the board. I am so much impressed with the presentations. Robert Gerard. As a cooperative, we registered over 5,000 farmers now, and we are continuing registering them into digital system. Digital system came to the cooperative at the time we needed it most. Farmers were scattered. We could not access them. We could not collect them amid this COVID. And it was such a time we were almost coming to collapse. We have been in business for over 12 years now. We have been controlling members in analog form. We have been handling business in a style that we could not even, I feel it was not formalized. But by getting into the system, I'm now feeling it very comfortable, working in my office, very comfortably, handling different businesses. I'm feeling comfortably reaching to the end user of our business product. That is what I mean is, what I mean there is farmers. We are only 6 months in this system, but wonders has come in these 6 months. Hamwe came in February, recruited our digital agents, trained them, facilitated them to run the activities. In these 6 months, this is the first shipment Ronald talked about of registering about 5,000. The immediate things we have achieved in these 6 months with the help of the digital agents and the system is mobilizing these farmers, sensitizing them, and educate them on how to run the business. In these 6 months, we also realized total drop in overhead costs, where we used to fuel the motorcycle, we used to send different many staff to the field, blowing fuel allowances. But I have realized by use of digital means to get to the business, we can manage a lot of things. We can reduce a lot of burdens that comes to kill the cooperative. We also realized in the 6 months that the cooperative business can also be globally recognized. As I talk now, we can do business without even going to Nairobi, without even going to Sudan. We can just put ourselves into a system, we upload ourselves, we inform our buyers, we inform our seed companies. By use of these digital agents, also bridge the gap between farmers, stakeholders like seed companies, like input sellers. These are the few things that it was giving us a lot of challenges. And what people are talking about here is real. I am a living testimony. Sitting in an office where farmers wants to get services, but you could not communicate to them the services available promptly, was giving me a lot of headache. But entering into the system, farmers were registered. Text message, okay, like we have text message approach. We send them back message, we inform them about the product now, they can give us feedback. Others can call, others can send back the text messages. Above all, yes, above all,
yeah,
the DCE and the, like the digital system, we are using MyCop. We're using MyCop, and this MyCop is probably working a level where even a person who cannot walk to the office can ask a friend or a child to send a message to use it. Bringing out clearly to where we talked about, yes.
Yeah, so really great point about how you've saved costs, got more markets, and improved the efficiency while lowering costs. So I guess if you have a minute or two in terms of, is this therefore investable for the cooperative? Like I know right now, Hamwe is rolling out the MyCoop, and potentially with investment from UNCDF and other partners. But do you see a future where, for example, Atrek Mio might, for example, find a way of raising funds from the members of the cooperative and pay for such services?
Probably yes, because the practical thing now, in these 6 months, by use of just text message, we were able to raise some funding, like about 44 million in registration, because we send message that people should register. Okay, the gap was going to a household, reaching the 5,000 household, telling them to register was a hectic thing. But now if we send a text message that registration is 10,000, one share is 20,000, people just come to the office. Or we could provide them mobile money platform, that way they can share their membership. From that point, it makes things very simple. So we raised some money really in these 6 months. And that's why I am very happy with this system. And I don't want the system to get out of me. I don't want it to get out.
Great, thanks, Willie. So I know we want to spare a lot of time for conversation, the Q&A in the panel, but Willie, allow me pause there and bring in Sheila from AgPlotters. Hello, Sheila. Sheila Leo is with the team lead at AgPlotters. And Sheila, specifically, if you could do this in maybe in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. AgPlotters has, of course, the mission of increasing financial inclusion, linking farmers to financial services. So how does the DCE approach add value to that, Sheila?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I'm going to thank everyone who is here. Secondly, I'm going to apologize for my video. Right now, I'm in West Nile. My network is shaky, so I don't think it can connect. Now, as AgPlotters, we are working with a range. We are working in various regions, and because of this, these regions are so big. We are not able to access them personally. Because of this, we have various regional district coordinators, and these are the ones that recruit the DCEs. The beauty of working with DCEs is, in most cases, these are people who are already part of cooperatives, farmer groups, VSLAs, and actually even companies. So these people help us. They are part of these groups. They approach the groups. They tell them, now, like for AgPlotters, we are an input company, and in most cases, most of these farmers do not have the funds to access these inputs because they need the seed, they need fertilizer, herbicide, pesticides, of which these things are actually not in most of these districts. So what the DCs do is we have a package, and through our partners, Akellobanker, we came up with a package that would include any kind of crop and all its various products that are needed for its growing. Now with Akellobanker, we were able to access finance from Stanbic Bank. These DCEs help these farmer groups because most of these farmer groups actually do not have bank accounts. They are the ones who help to open bank accounts for these groups. So it is on these groups where they are able to deposit their money, that is more of collateral, because we help these people to access unsecured loans, since we cannot have them put their physical collateral security in these banks. So they put a percentage of an amount that has been stipulated, because for now we've been working with a package of 250,000. So this DCEs help to collect the 20% that is banked in a bank account for these groups. And this helps to ensure that these farmers know, yes, I've banked my 50,000 in this account. I'm going to be able to get a loan of 250,000. And this DCEs, the money is, hello?
Yes,
and
yes.
Okay. These DCEs, they know, they explain to these farmers and the VSLAs, because most of them have not been in the banking system. They do not know how, they do not know how long it takes to pay. They don't know how long it takes to pay a loan. So they're given a grace period of 6 months. After these 6 months, they are able to pay back these loans for as low as 10%. Whereas if they went individually, without the protection of the DCE and the VSLA, the Vsla cover or cooperative, they are unable to access. So the DCE helps to deliver these inputs once they get the loan. The role of the DCE is to deliver these inputs to our farmers. Then they also register these farmers. This is done so that we keep a track of who took the seed, who took the input, so that we know who will be able to pay back the bank. And then the other thing, this DCEs also work as our insurance brokers, because for every farmer that is going to grow a crop, we do not want people to grow crops and maybe they lose out. So these DCEs are able to make a commission of insurance, and then for every package, if they are selling to these farmers, these VSLs, a package worth 250,000, which is equivalent to 1 acre of land, they should be able to make a commission of 78,000. This is spread across the whole 3 months of which the crop is being grown. So how we motivate our DCEs is that, since us as AgPlotos, we set a target that for every DCE, we need them to be able to sustain themselves. So they should be able to work with over 150 farmers or 100 farmers. And being in the agricultural sector, this means these DCEs have 2 periods, that is season A and season B, in which they are able to make an income. So if a DCE can work with 100 farmers in one season, they should be able to make an average of 7.8 million over a period of 3 months. So
that's on commissions of inputs sold,
extension services,
and customer education. Okay, and
yes,
insurance.
So we believe this 7.8 should be able to sustain them as they progress to the next season, because once one season ends, during this, before we proceed to the next season, they still make money off sales, because being an agricultural company, they are the ones who now have to help us to procure the produce from these farmers. So they also make, for each kilogram they are able to procure, they're able to make a commission of 20 shillings. So if they've been working with 100 farmers, and maybe from these 100 farmers, we are able to get maybe 20 tons of sim, 40 tons of sim, they should, all that, for every kilogram from those 40 tons of sim, they make 50 shillings off each single kilogram. So to us, this is a way we keep them motivated.
Yeah, Sheila.
Yes.
Great. Great to learn that the DCE is actually a core part of your delivery of your services, and the linkages you provide. And I guess maybe to kind of conclude the session on the discussions, it would be nice then to ask the gender angle, especially with the digital community entrepreneurs. Being so important, I'd like to invite Jasper for just 2 minutes. Jasper, as we've heard from Sheila, DCEs are very integral to the delivery of services, and we've seen Willie mention how that feeds into the COP. I guess the question is, from an NGO like Cordaid that is recruiting DCEs in West Nile, one of the key things to noted is majority of the DCEs at least 60% tend to be male. And of course, it has a trickle-down effect on the farmers who benefit from these services being also mostly male, especially in the initiative you're undertaking. So if you could kind of just give us the key 3 points in terms of what are the challenges causing this disproportionate access of services among women as DCEs and as farmers, and 2 solutions or initiatives or successes you're seeing in the rollout, as my colleague Rachel prepares the questions for the final part of this meeting. Thanks. Over to you, Jasper. Just 2 or 3 challenges, and then what you're doing to remedy.
Yeah, thank you, Ronald. I think, like Sheila, I'll request that I speak with my video not showing because of the network challenges. So I work for Cordaid, and Cordaid is implementing development projects in Uganda, including Northern Uganda and West Nile. And I work for
Hello, Jasper. Yeah, Jasper, as mentioned, Jasper, I seem to having some network connection challenges. So maybe Jasper, as you rectify the challenges, I'll come back to you at some point during the discussion. For now, Rachel, you could take us through what are some of the questions that are coming up.
Okay, Ronald, we ask everyone, if you have a question, please post it in the Q&A tab. We had 2 questions actually from Dennis Omara that have been kind of answered. I don't know, Dennis, if you feel that your questions have been answered, or if you want to be able to unmute yourself and ask the questions. But one of the questions is about the strategy, and I think this came in at the time Joyce was presenting. So how do you ensure that people pay for some of these products like water purifiers, stoves, etc., that are given to them on an installment payment basis? Joyce, if you could answer that. Joyce, are you there?
Rachel, I can answer. Yeah, as maybe if Joyce is not around. So what really happens is that most of these agrotechs have integrated with the mobile money operators. So they have a pay-in integration that allows them to create a wallet that collects money. So as they use the digital community entrepreneurs, they actually hand over these different products and services to the farmers and also communicate the different pay bill numbers where they are supposed to be paying in installments. Yeah, so having said that, they also take on the role to remind the specific farmers on the pay debt. So they use them as more of collection agents that are going house to house, reminding the specific farmers when to pay for their installments for the specific products they've gotten from a specific supplier. So because of using such a model, you kind of minimize the delayed payments and also minimize the non-payments that would have come as a result of not having someone on ground. So I'm not so sure whether, Omara, that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And Jasper, please alert me when you're able to fix your internet so that you can continue with your point. And again, Dennis asked about any milestones with the financial institutions like banks. There's an elaborate explanation from Gerald. And I would like to believe that, Dennis, your question was fully answered. If not, please feel free to raise your hand. Newton, your hand has been up since we started. I don't know if you have a question that you'd like to ask.
Yeah, Rachel, there's one around what the default rate is from Brian Azemchap. Farmers not paying, that is for those who take on credit. So I guess it goes to both Ensibuuko and MobiPay. Are there farmers who take credit, also maybe agroplotters? So yeah, agplotters, sorry. And relatedly, okay, Eric responds that there's a loan structure built into that. Yeah, so if anyone has on the panel has any comments on the default rate, that would be helpful. Okay, Sheila, please.
Like Sheila has a point on that.
Yeah.
Sheila, please go on.
Yes. Now, as AgPlotos, what we decided to do is, of course, most farmers are tricky. So being an an agricultural company, and we are the off-takers, what we do is, if a farmer has taken a loan of 250,000 because they have 1 acre, or now 2 acres, that is 500,000, we buy back from you. So when we are buying back from you, we deduct the amount of money that you are supposed to pay initially, as well as the interest that the bank is expecting. So this helps us to actually be the ones to pay back the loan. So that helps to reduce the chances of most of the farmers defaulting. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila. I see also a comment from Eric. Eric, I don't know if you would like to be able to explain more about what you've posted. You can unmute yourself and talk about the loan structure. Eric, over to you.
Yeah, the audio, Eric, your audio isn't coming through.
Okay, I think in the meantime, we can go to Paul's question. Paul is asking if there's more default in some regions compared to others. I don't know if we've been able to collect data up to that point. Again, this goes to you, Joyce, or even Gerald. Is this something that you can answer to right now? Stephen, do you want to take the question on default rate per statistics per region?
Yeah, I can take on that, but currently we've deployed in West Nile and Northern Uganda, and when you try to consider the two regions, the default rate is not really, it's almost the same, because now when you look at the kind of activities that these people engage in, so the different ag-tech companies through the different DCEs, they kind of use the DCEs as a kind of mini collateral to ensure that you minimize on the default rate. Yeah, so we've seen that majority of these people repay because they have a belonging to a specific farmer group of the Vsla, and they don't want to spoil that. And they kind of want to maintain a clean sheet all throughout at the end of the day. So we are yet to kind of compare that to other regions, because Ensibuuko, for example, has gone to Karamoja, MobiPay is going to Karamoja, then in southern West Uganda as well, and they are beginning to scale up these operations. I'm very sure that what we've actually learned in the two regions in northern Uganda and West Nile may probably be the same kind of default rate at the end of the day. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Stephen. I see Willie, your hand is up. If you're answering to that question, please go ahead. Willie?
Okay, thank you. I didn't want to answer that, but I wanted to comment on some few things that I did not talk about. Like, my concern is Stephen talks about access to mobile phones. Stephen also talk about farmer literacy about the digital system, then introduction of alternative electricity sources, then network boost. I want to urge UNCDF and Hamwe, then other stakeholders working in this. We are also challenged by this component. Yeah, we are seriously challenged by this component, and farmers as well are so much challenged. Out of the 5,000 farmers, half of them have access to personal phones. So I didn't want to skip that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Willie, for raising that very important point. And I think either Stephen, Ronald, or even Mike will talk about our work in enabling access to connectivity. Of course, we still have a long way to go, and it's a concern, as it also speaks to the next question: is who covers the costs of internet connectivity for the VSLA? Gerald, I think you'll answer to that. Who pays for the smartphone used by the VSLA at Ensibuuko? Gerald, over to you. Gerald, are you able to take on that question about who covers the costs for internet, for the smartphone, and for connectivity by the VSLA?
I see Eric has also come back, and he may have a chance to. Eric, are you there?
Yeah, so as we get Eric, if your team is not coming, I can try to come in. The cost of connectivity is actually borne by the VSLAs. So the VSLAs themselves, because it starts with making sure that they appreciate what they're going into. So because you've taken time to educate them about the benefits of digitizing and having the digital ledger system that captures all their information and how eventually that digital ledger system is going to link them to access to finance, they kind of appreciate what they have gone into as a journey, and they can pay a little, maybe 500 shillings whenever they need to upload. Now, when you look at the way Ensibuuko and MobiPay have designed their digital applications, they have both offline and online capability. So when it comes to capturing the records at a particular sitting, they capture them in an offline mode. And if they need to sync them to the database, then that is when they load 500 shillings worth of data, which they now are able to use to connect and make sure that the different data that has been captured is uploaded into the mainstream platform that is managing the VSLA platform. So that is the answer to connectivity. Then the issue around smartphones, who pays for the smartphone? So just like Ensibuuko said, is that because of the model that has been deployed, they have attracted different stakeholders, be it NGOs, be it cooperatives, and etc. So there is a discussion that goes on because we know that smartphones are expensive. Some of these players in the market subsidize the smartphones, and the groups also have an opportunity to pay in a phased manner for the smartphone. So it's a two-way kind of effort whereby the implementing NGO fraternity subsidizes maybe 50%, and the VSLAs also make it a top up to make sure that they have the gadget that is needed. Then one interesting aspect here is that in most of these rural areas, we've also found out that at least in most of the VSLAs that we've gone to, there happens to be at least one member of the VSLA that at least has gotten a smartphone. And most of these that have actually gotten the smartphones are the ones that are given the chance to become secretaries. So how do you leverage such connections where you have some members of the VSLAs that own smartphones and use them as baby steps to actually get started? Thank you.
Great, thanks, Steve. I see Gerard and Eric.
For some reason, I wasn't able to unmute myself, but thanks, Rachel. I think Stephen has answered the question around, access to smartphones quite well. I just wanted to say a little bit about connectivity and internet. In the past, we have expected the groups to cover their own internet costs. But recently, we were able to figure out another alternative. So we worked with MTN to provide a reverse billing option for internet, where we actually, so Vsla only needs to have an internet-enabled device and access to internet connection, but they don't need to have internet bundles to use the app. So even if they have 0 internet bundles, they will be able to use the application. And then MTN does reverse billing. Now we bundle the cost of internet onto the license fees for the app. That way the Vsla, for the Vsla, it might seem like they're using the app with 0 internet bundles, but they actually are paying for it in some other way. So that's what I wanted to mention. This is an innovative internet pricing model that some telcos have now, and it's something that we're now working with MTN on.
Thanks so much, Gerald. I think we are coming to the top of the time that we had planned. We still were not able to hear from Jasper, but I'll hand it over back to you, Ronald, to either see if we can get Jasper or we have the wrap up.
Yeah, I think if Jasper, you have something to share in a minute, I wanted to see how we can now start to wrap up. I know that this is not the end by any means.
Sorry.
Yes, Jasper.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Sorry, my internet has been a lot disturbing, but from the question that you had asked me, I'll break it down into 2 layers quickly. Number one, at the DCE level, why is there not at least a 50-50 participation? One of the things, of course, that is known is that at household level, the burden of fending for a household lie more on the shoulders of a woman compared to it would be on a male at a rural level. So these women, I think they feel they are already overwhelmed with those things that they already do at household, and do not feel that they want to add any other, additional role by becoming a DCE or something like that. So with what we have seen from the communities, this has been one of the things that led them to not to participate equally. The other thing, of course, is gender relations between male and female, especially, women having to somehow to seek consent or approval from their spouses for them to be able to participate as as a digital village agent. And some men seeing this as, a platform to expose, the women into interactions with many other people, and seeing it as a risk for their women. This is also the other thing that kind of came out quite clearly when we went down to try to check why there was not that even participation. Although,
Jasper,
I would say that not all men look at, yes?
Yeah, I was going to yes, we can hear you, Jasper. I was going to say that this is part of the gender mainstreaming in digital study that Cordaid has done. And this will be published, Rachel, I guess, in the next 2 to 3 weeks as a public resource around the challenges that Jasper mentioned, which were documented in the assessment done with Cordaid and others. So I think Jasper, I wonder if we can just maybe leave it at that, given that we have passed the time. And then Rachel can guide us when that gender mainstreaming in digital agriculture study will be published. And Rachel, as you update on that, maybe you kindly invite our regional lead, Mike, to share some of his reflections and close the webinar. Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah, thanks, Ronald. Really quickly, the report is going to be published like within 2 weeks, and I'll share with all the members present here. And now I have the pleasure to invite Mike to share closing remarks and really thank everyone for participating. Over to you, Mike.
Yeah, I think Mike might have the same audio challenges. Let me try to initiate and ask to unmute.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, cool, Mike.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, can hear you, Mike. Sorry, we had a malfunction with
Perfect.
Zoom today. Okay, cool.
No, yeah, it's a tough day for digital. No, thank you very much. This has been an amazing morning of different perspectives from the array of partners that we've been working with in both the private and public sector. The work we do is, made possible by also the donor partnerships we have. In this case, the Swedish government, that we're very thankful for. There's, I think, a lot has been said that's really important, and I think it's great that it's coming, from kind of the CEO, kind of C-suite offices down to kind of our grassroots community organizing. And I think the first thing that really stands out is the public-private sector partnership models here, where there's been, I think, a lot of public sector efforts to set up what we can consider public goods in terms of these models, what we talked about at the beginning, from booster teams to DCE, from VSLAs, and then fading back into a lesser role and allowing kind of private sector to come in and create more sustainable models. That's really kind of the catalytic effect that we want to have with public funds, and the kind of the ownership that we want to see from the private sector moving forward. I think on that also is just the array of partnerships to make these models work. And especially in rural areas where our cost of operations are usually high, and revenues are harder to generate. But looking at this model where not only are we servicing kind of the digitalization of VSLAs, or looking at more efficient kind of distribution of agricultural inputs, but we're also looking at solar products. We're looking at revenue through telco partnerships, through banking partnerships, looking at other generation of revenue now through kind of lending models and digital algorithms, and piecing together these models through the array of kind of partnerships that are brought to the table, bringing value not only to the company, but to the end users in terms of more services they can offer, in terms of the facility with which these services are now arriving potentially at their doorstep, right? And yeah, so in that sense, we're doing I think as work end of the year, these types of design ownership and knowledge of these types of models to other organizations out there that think that they can bring value to these partnerships, or would like to see build upon what's been done already and create version 3.0 moving forward. This is certainly a journey that has not arrived at its destination. As Rachel said and has shared in the chat box, a lot of this stuff we've documented quite well, from booster teams to the digital community entrepreneur model. I think maybe has shared those other links as well, for those of you who would like to know more. And then as well, our team is available to help kind of generate the next generation of leadership with these models. So thank you very much, everyone, for your participation. We really appreciate it, and we hope everyone has a good day. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Bye for now. And the link, Mike, you mentioned, I'm just pasting it now. Actually, Rachel has already pasted it in the chat. Great, thank you, and bye for now.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.